Hello everyone, and today I got a cool video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the new Final Fantasy cards that will be coming out for Magic the Gathering. I've been trying to do this for wanted to do this for a while now. I just finally put my, just sat down and just started to do it. So this is just going to be like my opinion or what I think of all of the new Final Fantasy cards that they've revealed so far. It's not going to be all over the rest of the cards until the actual full set comes out in a specific date and time. For that, it's in June. If you June, by the way. So if you do want to get pre-orders are up. This set is going to be standard legal. So that means you can play it in Standard, Pioneer, and you can definitely play it in Modern, or you want to play it in Legacy, Vintage, and or Freeform, or Commander, or Oathbreaker. That's another format too if you want to play it in. There will be all legals in those sets there. But that's if you want to play that. I will have the Commander cards near the end towards the video after I go through the rest that are in just Standard and all the way leading up to Modern. So basically, because I'm a Modern player for Magic the Gathering, so I'm going to be looking at these from a Modern viewpoint. I also play on Arena with Historic. That is another format that's close to like Legacy and or Modern era, unless you wanted to play Pioneer or Explorer, but it's Pioneer that's on there and stuff like that. So I'm going to be looking at it from that standpoint and see if these cards are playable, valuable, or if they are playable and if they're fun. Basically, the fun factor for these Final Fantasy cards, because these are going to be really cool and everything else. So here's going to be the first one for this type of stuff. So let's jump into it. So our first card that we're looking at, it's an enchantment called Side Quest Catch a Fish. So you're going to go out on a side quest and catch a fish. And that is Noctis in the art, by the way, from Final Fantasy 15. And you're looking at, this is an enchantment for 1 white and 2 colorless mana. So total of 3 mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, you look at the top card of your library. If it's an artifact or creature card, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. If you put a card into your hand this way, you create a food token and transform this enchantment. So on the first side of this, or the first side of this card, we are looking, this card is trying to filter, not really filter, it is filter, because it says reveal and then you put it into your hand. So basically, I have a card here on my table, so it's like, it says any artifact. So basically, this is an artifact card. You can see right here, it says artifact or a creature card. So something like this, since this is a creature card, you can see right there on the camera, you can actually see that it is a creature. So anything that's like that, also, it also can be like an artifact creature to get this trigger off, or basically like that. So I just showed you 2 examples there that you can use. You reveal the card. If you do, because it is a May trigger, so you do not have to reveal the card, you create a food token. It says if you put the card into your hand this way, you create a food token. So you don't have to do it if you miss the trigger or whatever, because it might be there. But if you do, you create a food token, and then you transform into the enchantment. So let's take a look at the back side of the transform side, which is Cooking Campsite. Cooking Campsite says it's a land, and then you can tap it to add a single white mana to your mana pool. You can pay 3 mana of any color, that is colorless or colorless mana, or waste mana, or any mana basically into this land, and you got to tap the land to you got to sacrifice an artifact to put a counter on each creature you control. But the downside is it's at sorcery speed, so you can't do it at instant speed. So when you tap it, you can't just do it into response of somebody else doing stuff. You have to do it at sorcery speed. That is the only downside, but it puts a counter, a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control once you get it flipped over. So as soon as you get this onto the field, you have to try to get it flipped over. And if you can try to get it flipped over, but it's only happening on your upkeep. So you have to wait a turn, that'd be turn 4, unless you're playing ramps. If you're playing ramp, you can get this out on like turn 3. On turn 2, that'd be you play a land, you play Land of War Elves. That's on turn. That's already turn 1. Yeah, that's turn 1. Turn 2, you play another land. You can get this out on turn 3. You can get this out on turn 2. So if you can get this out pretty quickly on turn 3, then you can do. You can look at the top card and then you can transform it and get that extra land. Then you'll have it all set up to ready to go when you have enough mana and you want to do it in a later turn to go swing pretty big and just end the game and stuff like that. And that is your side quest for Catch a Fish cooking campsite. And that is, I forget, I don't know his name. He's in the art, but it's from Final Fantasy 15 because it also tells you the what game it's from. So I do have Final Fantasy 15, but I haven't played it. So let's jump into the next card called Stiltskin Moogle Merchant. For 1 mana, that'd be 1 white. It's a legendary creature, Moogle, with lifelink. You pay 2 and you tap it. Target opponent gains control of another target permanent you control. If you do, draw a card. So the cool thing about this card is, and it's a 1/2. So it's a 1/2. Let's read its flavor text. How about a 3-piece combo of High Potion, Ether, and a Phoenix Finan for 444 gil. So basically, the Moogle merchants are mostly they're Moogles that are throughout the entirety of Final Fantasy series. They either sell you items, give you items, or you have to do special side quests to get special items from them that allows you, the character, to get stuff that they wouldn't otherwise get and or power up. For an example, in Final Fantasy VII, if you played Final Fantasy VII Remake, they do have the Moogle coins that you can go to a Moogle shop. They're usually characters dress up as a Moogle, or they're actual plain Moogles that are out in the world that just sit there, and then you can transfer items and stuff if you do certain quests for them to get. So, for this Moogle here, has lifelink, which is nice, but they want to give target opponent other player stuff. So, like, you want to give your permanents to another player. So there's cards that work really well with them. If you're playing in white and red, there's a card called in red. If you're playing in red with the white mana and stuff, that'd be white-red. There's a card called Harmless Offering that does the exact same thing, but it's at instant speed. You can give your permanent to stuff. There is combos where you can use where certain other cards will kill, like, 4 options left, and you used all 3, and the last option says you lose the game. There's stuff like that. There's also other cards that's called, there's another one called Illusion of Grandeur if you're playing in Commander. If you're playing in white and blue or white, blue, red, there's a card called Zedru that is in white, blue, and red that does the exact same thing what this Moogle does, but it's only tied to 1 color. So it's a pretty cool card, but will I play it? Maybe, but I'll probably get it for a collection value. But that is a pretty cool card, and I do like the art. It looks very fun. So let's cut to the next one. Now these going to be really fun is the summon cards, which I'm super excited for because they showed off Shiva. She is one of the very powerful. She is not one of the powerful, but she is a powerful Aeon or summon in all of the Final Fantasy games. Shiva has been in every single one. She is a 5 mana, 4/5 enchantment creature Saga. So that's the thing. Saga is not a creature type, but Elemental is a creature type. She has 3 lore counter abilities. Her number 1 is, and number 2 is, you tap target creature an opponent controls, you put a stun counter on it. Stun counter is when it becomes their next turn and they want to untap the creature, they have to remove the counter from the creature, and then the next turn they can untap them and stuff. So when she hits lore counter 3, Diamond Dust, you get to draw a card for each tap creature your opponent controls. So this is Shiva. This is what she does. She is a 4/5. There is a downside with this card though. I noticed she only gets to swing for one turn if you have haste. If you have haste out, like there's a red green enchantment called Rhythm of the Wilds. You can play that enchantment on turn 3 because then the creature will have Riot, and it's because she is a 4/5. You can either give her a counter, a +1/+1 counter, or give her haste. At that time, you should give her haste. Or if you have something to turn her into a goblin as soon as she enters, because there's all the goblin lords that give out haste, you can actually swing with her pretty quickly. I know, Shivan goblins would be kind of weird, but you only get to attack once with her because on lore 1, she has Summoning Sickness, then lore 2, you can swing with her, and then at lore 3, you just gotta sacrifice her. But there's other cool shenanigans you can actually do with the summon Shiva that be blink mechanics, or you can go with bounce mechanics, bounce it to your hand to replay her if you want to do it that way. Basically, blink would probably be the better chance to just put her back on the field up and down over and over and over again, since she is a creature, unless you want to do something to get around the trigger that be like, it's called Enter the Infinite. I think it's no, not Enter the Infinite. Sundial of the Infinite. I'm sorry, Sundial of the Infinite, where it says just end the turn, because you could just do that too. But that's if you're just trying to keep her on the field. But I don't know how that interaction might actually work. So you have to do some testing first with Shiva. But this looks like it's going to happen for all the summon cards that will be in Final Fantasy. And she is from Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X is one of my favorite games for Final Fantasy. But I'm super excited because I want to see all of the summons. I want to see the Aeons from Final Fantasy X. Oh, I want to see what Bahamut look like. Neo Bahamut. Oh, you got Ifrit. You got Alexander. You have all of the big name dog summons. I can finally do a full blown summon deck or something along that line, which is going to be really awesome. And then she synergizes really well with all of the other enchantment cards that are in Magic that are pretty busted. There is a fair warning, Final Fantasy does have its own card game, but I don't think a lot of people buy it or whatever, so. But we're going to jump to the next card. I might be making this video kind of long. So the next card is going to be Cecil, Dark Knight. This guy has a transform side. His first side only cost 1 black mana for 1. And he has Death Touch. He's a legendary creature human knight. And his ability is Darkness. Whenever Cecil deals damage, you lose that much life. Then if your life total is less than or equal to half your starting life total, you untap him and then you transform him. So, let's read his favor text. I suppose this is my fate as a Dark Knight. Soon I won't even feel remorse for my actions. I know I pointed. So, if we're looking at this card, and he's a 2/3, he's actually really good, actually. I think he might be modern viable because he is a 1-drop 2/3 Death Toucher on turn 1. So, as soon as you deal damage, you lose that much life. Now, if you want him to equal out, I say don't add lifelink because his backside is actually going to be pretty darn powerful. Because you have to, if your life total is less than or equal to your half starting life total. So if you're playing in standard, it's going to take a little bit to get down there, to lower your life a little bit, unless you let your opponents hit you for a little bit and stuff. Or you could use those tap lands that come in. You didn't know that's not going to work. But there's other cards in like Modern that works really well. Like in Modern, you have all the fetch lands that makes you lose a life to go search for a card because you need those to play. You don't really need those to play Modern, but I don't barely. But you can drain your life pretty quickly down to half your life. Then if your life total is less than or equal to half your life. So you have to get at least 10 or below, then you can transform him of your life. So let's see what his backside is. It's Cecil, Redeemed Paladin. He has lifelink, and he's a 4/4. Whenever Cecil attacks, other attacking creatures gain indestructible until end of turn. This is my battle. One, I must fight alone to atone for my wrongs. Pretty darn strong. It is a lifelink that is literally a 4/4. If you have anything, because it does say transform, so what I'm thinking is there any cards that might be able to transform him earlier? Because that is the front side or anything like that. You have to do some testing with other cards to see if you can do that. But Cecil has lifelink, which is really good. So whenever he hits, you're gaining 4 life back. So you're going to start getting your life back fairly quickly. Then also when you attack, other creatures gain indestructible, which is really good. If you have a way to get rid of the legendary rule, which there is tons of way to do, you can get multiple versions. You can get 2 his Cecils out. If you have 2 Cecils out and they're both on the backside, they both will gain indestructible because it says the other creatures. If you're doing like any clone shenanigans, there is cards that says make a clone, and it does come in as not legendary or whatever, called Helm of the Host. There's that card too. You can make this actually make Cecil pretty darn strong and stupid all at the same time, which is pretty fun. But also, he's black and white if you're trying to play him in Commander, which will be a really fun commander to build around for Cecil. So, let's go to the next card. And he's also from Final Fantasy 6? No, 4. Final Fantasy 4. Final Fantasy 4. So, the next card is Tonberry. Tonberry is another 1-drop, 2/1. This creature enters tapped with the stun counter on it. So basically, it's tapped. As you play it, it comes in, it's tapped. Then on your next turn, you try to untap him, but he's still tapped again. So you gotta remove the stun counter, and then on your third turn, you'll be able to play him. So he's very clunky. And he has Chef's Knife. During your turn, this creature has First Strike and Death Touch. So basically, because Thornberry, the Thornberries are very slow, but will kill your guys in one shot to them basically all the time in all of the Final Fantasy games. This thing is a menace if you're ever trying to fight him. Like in Final Fantasy X, he does walk up to you, and then once he stabs you, he does like max damage, and then he will just keep killing your party over and over and over again until you can beat him. Like in Final Fantasy VII Remake, when you got the open arena, you can be running around, and then he comes up to you and stab him. It's one of the part of the spoiler side missions there you have to do for Final Fantasy VII Remake and stuff like that. But you will encounter, this is the Final Fantasy V version of Tonberry and not the Final Fantasy VIII, because you Final Fantasy VIII, you have the summon version, which is King Tonberry, and then you have all the other versions of like Doom Train and all of those other summons from Final Fantasy VIII. But back to Thornberry, it is a very strong card. If you have ways to untap him or get the ability to remove the stun counter, because there is ways to remove a counter, you can probably get it out pretty quickly. There is a if you have other cards that just say untap them, so like black and green. In green, there's a lot of instants and sorcery spells that says your creature gets +1/+1, untap it. So there's other cards that like that you can do shenanigans with to give him that to give him those abilities pretty quickly if you go that route. So if you do, he is uncommon and he's going to be a 1-drop, so he's actually pretty good. You can get him out on turn 1, and then on turn 3 you can swing unless you have other untapped shenanigans, and then you can go there and make him go a little bit faster to hit that person for 2/1. So let's check out the next card. The next card. This card is going to be one of my favorite cards, is right here, the Jumbo Cactuar. The Jumbo Cactuar has Yu-Gi-Oh stats. This is a Yu-Gi-Oh stat card. They finally went the route, because this is from Final Fantasy VIII. You do fight a Jumbo Cactuar, but let's go through. Jumbo Cactuar is, before we go finish, I want to make sure I need to read the flavor text. Fearful monsters that creep ever forward. Knives poised with deadly intent. That's for the Tonberry. But for the Jumbo Cactuar, I am super excited for this card. This card is already busted. There's so many stupid shenanigans you can do with this card. It costs 7 mana. It is 2 green and 5. It has a power and toughness of power is 1, toughness is 7, but the 1 doesn't really matter because its main ability is it has 10,000 needles. Whenever this creature attacks, it gets plus 9,999 plus 0 until end of turn. And its flavor text is, some Cactuars live long lives and grow huge. This Jumbo Cactuar is one of them. So this thing has 10,000 needles, and it will deal 10,000 damage to any creature that is blocking it. It will literally kill just about anyone and everything. So here's a few things that come to mind when you're trying to play Jumbo Cactuar. So first off, if you're trying to get him out or put him on the field, and as soon as you're attacking, you do have the attack step. You say, I declare an attack, I go to swing. It activates his ability when he attacks. So now he's attacking. Now this is where the fun part is. If you have an instant speed, you could fling him and kill your opponent right then and there. Boom, instant death. Or if you have trample and just trample over, that is 100% instant death. Anyone. So trample and flinging is one way to kill your opponent. Unless somebody tries to Swords to Plowshare you. If you're in Commander and make you sack your creature, you just gain 10,000 life points. Easy and simple. Or if you decide to go that route, there's a few other cards that says, there was one in Strixhaven that says sack a creature and you make that many tokens equal to that creature's power. Well, if you sack him with 10,000 attack strength, you will get 10,000 creatures. That is another way. Or if you have impact triggers and you do that, you can literally kill one table for 10,000 damage with impact trimmers because, oh, I just made a bunch of dudes. There is just so many ways this card can be broken and so fun. It's a 7-drop, but that's not the problem. You can get this thing out pretty darn easily. Like, in Standard, you have Rescue Beastie. If the card is tapped, which there are cards, you can make it tap pretty quickly. You can put this out on turn 4. As soon as turn 4. You can get this thing out on turn 4 and swing on turn 5. Or if you have haste, well, technically, if you don't have haste, there's other cards. If you have haste, you can get it out on sooner and stuff like that. So, but Jumbo Cactuar is one of those cards that I'm looking forward to, and everything else. So, it is from Final Fantasy VIII. So, let's go to the next card. We got Sazish Chocobo. This is another fun 1-drop. It's a 1-drop in green, creature bird, and it has landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, and its power and toughness is a 0/1. This chick has no name, as voicing the true identity of the animal might trigger ripples of destinies across Cocoon and causes a hurricane in Eden. Either that or Saj just haven't thought of one yet. So this is from Final Fantasy 13, where you play as Lightning and you go through all of the Final Fantasy storylines. Saj is one of the players that you get to play with in Final Fantasy 13. He has this chocobo that lives in his afro, basically. So the chocobo lives up here in the afro, and it's a baby chocobo. It's a very small chocobo that stays with him through the entirety of the game. This chocobo actually has a pretty strong ability because it has landfall. So whenever land enters, you get to put a counter on this. This will go great in landfall strategies, any land deck strategies, any of that stuff is going to be busted. So this is a really great card to have on turn 1. And it's uncommon, so it's not that bad. So, the next card, we have Elmet Slouch. I don't know if I said his name right. The Unsundered And he's 3 mana, 1 blue, 1 black, and 1 colorless mana Elder Wizard with the power of 2 and 4. Whenever it enters or attacks, draw a card. I did forget to add his backside. Let me get that real quick. Dun, dun, dun. So, back there. There we go. But I'm going to keep reading. So, he's a legendary creature, Elder Wizard. He has a Vigilance. Then, from when he has Vigilance, he also has whenever he enters or attacks, you get to draw a card and discard a card. Then, at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 14 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform Emmett Silch. And then he transforms into a very powerful creature on his backside. So, did something there. Let's see real quick. So, his backside is Hades, Sorcerers of Eld. He has Vigilance. And then he still has the Vigilance from his front side, called Echo of the Lost. During your turn, you may play cards from your graveyard. So this is a very powerful ability. If a card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. What will become of our triumph, our hopes, our despair? And it's a 6/6. So this guy is pretty darn strong. You can tell by his backside. You get to play during your turn. It's a may, so you don't have to do it, but you can do it. You're going to have to. You instantly win the game, maybe, if you can get him onto the backside, because now you have everything in your graveyard at your disposal. All of the cards in the graveyard at your disposal. That's pretty good, but whenever a card or token will be put into your graveyard, you have to exile it. That's the only other downside he has, is that. But other than that, he's a pretty strong card. This guy is from Final Fantasy XIV, the MMO version of Final Fantasy. I have played it for a little bit. I am not too versed in the Final Fantasy XIV and everything else. So, let me show you. But let's take a little bit look at his front side. His front side is when he attacks, you get to draw a card and discard a card. So you do a loot effect, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 14 or more cards in your graveyard. This is going to be the easiest thing ever done. All you have to do is mill yourself. So there's tons of cards where it enters the battlefield, you mill yourself for 4. Or you cast a blue spell, you cast a spell that targets yourself. I mill like 4 cards. I mill like 5 cards. Or I mill like 16 cards. Boom, you're already instantly there. You have it on the field. You can play the backside, and now you have your entire graveyard at your disposal as soon as that happens. This dude is a pretty powerful card. So he is pretty strong. And he's a mythic rare, so I can see it. And he's going to be really cool to play if you try to build a commander deck around him. But I know my friends will probably play him. Depends. But it depends. So, let's jump to the next card. So now, we're into Final Fantasy VII. This is Sephiroth. This is from definitely Final Fantasy VII. Sephiroth, Planet's Heir. He is a 6 drop. This is from the starter deck card version of Sephiroth. We haven't seen the main deck set, Sephiroth, which is Sephiroth I don't know if he's going to be strong. I don't know. I hope his main card will be even more powerful. So he is 6 mana, 1 black, 1 blue, 4 colorless mana, and his power toughness is a 4/4. And he's a human avatar soldier. So he does fit in the avatar archetype. So if you want him using with avatars or whatever, you can. He's a legendary creature, so he can be your commander. He has Vigilance. and it says whenever Sephiroth enters, creatures your opponent controls get -2/-2. So basically, he has Elish Norn's ability, but it's on an ETB, so you can blink him to make it get multiple triggers of the -2/-2. And his second ability is whenever a creature an opponent controls die, you put a counter on Sephiroth. That's basically when each creature dies, because it says A. So it says A, that stands for single. So if 2 creature dies, he automatically gets 2 counters. If you do anything, basically play him with blink spells, this card, he will be deadly if you play him with blink spells, because I'm just going to keep blinking. Creatures will die because they all get -2/-2. You play it, you blink it, oh, they just get another -2/-2. You blink it again, that's another -2/-2. If you have 3 blink spells, that's -6/-6 to all creatures on the battlefield, and that can be very cheap if you go that route with Sephiroth ability. There's the other shenanigans when other creatures die. Now you have die triggers. He has the die trigger of putting counters on stuff. This deck is going to be really strong if you play him in Commander and stuff like that. So, which is really fun and cool. So let's look at the next card. We have Garland, Knight of Cornelia. Cornelia. If you played Swords of Paradise, they're not putting any of the spin-off games in the set for Final Fantasy. So basically, but he is Final Fantasy 1. He is a human knight for 2 mana, 1 black, 1 red, 3/2. He also has a transform side. I'm messing up today. This is a shenanigan video. It is, but hey, I'm having fun. So let's get this up really quick. So what he does is he's a human knight. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you get to surveil 1. Then you get to surveil 1. And then his next ability, you have to pay 7 mana for his second to return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Transform. Activate only as a sorcery. So you could pay 7 mana, that'd be double black, double red mana, and then 3 colorless to transform Garland, Knight of Cornelia, into his backside, which is Chaos, the Endless. I'm going to put it up here real quick, so give me a moment here. Some of these cards, I didn't even realize. There's a bunch of the cards that have transform sides, and I didn't realize it until I didn't realize it at all. So we're going to hit cancel, hit OK. So there. And his other backside is Chaos, the Endless. So he's a demon that turns into Chaos. Oh, this is all thanks to Stranger of Paradise. He has flying. And then when Chaos dies, we'll put it on the bottom of its owner's library, and it's a 5/5. So basically, you kill him, he's just going to go back into the deck. So if you get him into the graveyard, you have to pay 7 mana if you get him into the graveyard to transform him for the Chaos side. And then he becomes, he's basically Chaos on the field. And then if he dies, you put him on the bottom of the deck. If you have like 4 of these in your deck, there's a high chance you're going to get him again and just replay him for basically his mana cost. Unless you put him in a mill deck and your self-mill decks, and you can just get him in there. But his second ability is so expensive. You have to go with cards that have activated ability cost reducers. So if we go with cost reducers, these are not it. I'm sorry. We are about to be there. Yeah, here we go. So, if we have a cost reducer for his second ability, then we can make it cheaper, like 2 less to cast. His activated abilities are 2 less to activate it. You got a few cards that can do it. They're mostly in blue and or green and or red. There's also a red-white. for activated abilities to cost 2 less to make it cheaper than what it is to make it come down to 4, because that is a... Oh, actually, I'm sorry. It's not going to work. It's straight 7 mana. I'm sorry. It's 100% straight 7 mana because it's in your graveyard. It's a graveyard effect. It's a graveyard ability. If you get 7 mana, then you can do it. That's kind of high. He is an uncommon card. So that is Garland, Knight of Cornelia. Chaos! So now we're going to look at Cloud, Planet's champion. So this is going to be the other version. He is from Final Fantasy VII. This is Cloud. He is the main character. This is the main character of the Final Fantasy VII series. So if you really like Cloud, he might be a cool commander for you. But he's 5 mana. He's red and white. Human Soldier Mercenary. He's a legendary creature with 4/4. During your turn, and then as long as Cloud is equipped, it has Double Strike and Indestructible. Equip abilities you activate that target Cloud cost 2 less to activate. So basically, Cloud is an equipment commander, if you want to use him that way, or you can use any equip cards that are really well. There is some one-drop equipments. There's a lot of cost reducers in red and white for equipment strategies, and you can equip them towards Planet Champion. I thought they were going to give him something better that has something to do with all his swords, or basically any of his trauma, or anything that this character does, and mercenary stuff that he has from the Final Fantasy series. But he does get Double Strike and Indestructible as long as he's equipped, which he's going to be very, very powerful, so he can practically just about demolish anything as long as he equipped. If you can get him, if you cheat him out and then put an equipment on him, he's going to be swinging pretty darn strong. And also, it's not over yet. This isn't the end. Then we have one of the final cards that is going to be part of the main part of this video, not the commander cards, is Sen. This is Sen, Spear's Punishment. Sen is from Final Fantasy X. It is a 7/7 that is cost exactly 7 mana to get out. That is blue, black, and green, and 4 colorless. It has flying. It has whenever Sen enters or attacks, you exile a permanent card from your graveyard at random. Then you create a tap token that's a copy of that card. If the exile card is a land, repeat this process. So Sen, Spear's Punishment, looks like a very fun and janky card. This card is nothing but jank. I can feel the jank energy. Final Fantasy X is one of my favorite games of all time. I will 100% build a deck around Sen, the Spear's Punishment for Commander, and I'll probably do it for Modern also. This card is pretty janky. It's a Leviathan too, so it does fits in the Kraken's Octopus Leviathan archetype stuff also, which is pretty cool. He's in blue, black, and green, so you have all the right cards that really fits well with this. So here's a weird shenanigans you can do, because it says when it enters or attacks, you exile a permanent card from your card at random. If you don't want it to be random, if you have exactly 1 card in your graveyard, it is not random. So you could put something like, if we're going to the extreme end and you're going with like green, you can go with, this is just an example if you're playing Modern, Primeval Titan. If you have Primeval Titan in your graveyard and he's on the field, when he enters, you can get a copy of Primeval Titan as soon as it comes. Or if you have a land and a creature, you can hit the land. If you hit the land, because it's random, if you hit the land, there's a slim chance you'll still get a Primeval Titan and the land, or Primeval Titan and then, or a Primeval Titan and a land. So serious, Sen is going to be a fun card that I think is going to be really cool, because he is from Final Fantasy X. And he's going to be a 7, and he's a 7 drop. So there's going to be tons of ways to cheat him into play. There's already tons of ways to do that. So get him out and then start doing shenanigans. And that's what the fun part is. So I think my next card is going to be the commander cards. So let's take a look. And yes, now we start the commander cards. So these last few cards, except the ones that I did pass with the other stuff, these cards will be tailored for just commander stuff only, since they are, well, not commander, they're also going to be legal in legacy. So you want to play these in legacies and vintage format, you probably can, but those formats, I don't know if you wanted to play or not. So you'll look at Y'shtola, Knight's Bless. She is 4 mana, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 white, and 1 colorless mana. She's a legendary creature, Cat Warlock, with the power of 2, toughness 4. And she has Vigilance. So you can tell these are commander cards with the Chocobo icon and not the Final Fantasy that has double F icon on the card. She has Vigilance and says at the beginning of each end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you can draw a card. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, Y'shtola deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. So basically, Y'shtola is a pretty cool card. She has an ability where it says at the beginning of each end step. So that says if a player lost 4 life. So that means you can make yourself lose 4 life, or you can make any other player around the commander table to lose 4 life, which is very easy to do if you already have your engine set up by turn 4, which you can probably do. By turn 4, you're already making tons of people lose life around the table, because it says if a player lost 4 or more life this turn. You don't even have to make them lose life. They could be losing it on their own turn from their own stuff, or someone attacks, or someone doing damage. As long as somebody on the table has lost 4 life, you get to draw a card. That's basically it. And it's only once at the beginning of the end step. But whenever her second spell is, whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, she deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. Mana value 3 or greater, all you gotta do is cast a 3 spell and you can force each opponent to lose 2 life. So you just cast 2 spells. So it's already built into her stuff to trigger the end step ability. So if you have instant speed stuff that is 3 mana or higher and cast on other people's turns, you can make them lose 2 life. It says 2, that's 2 each opponent, so you got 3 opponents, that's 6 life. You instantly get to draw a card at the beginning of the end step. So this card is actually really, really good because of what she does. Everything just flows together. It flows like butter. As soon as she hits the field, you already have stuff that is set up to make her abilities pretty darn strong. And she's a 2/4, so she looks like a very fun commander to play around. She is from Final Fantasy XIV, the MMO game, which I've already stated in the earlier part of this video I haven't played a lot of. So now we're going to look at Terra, Herald of Hope. She is from Final Fantasy VI. She is black, red, and white. I think she's Mardu colors. She is a human wizard warrior. She is a 3/3. She got Trance. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you mill 2 cards. Terra gains flying until on the turn. She just gains flying until on the turn. Okay. And then whenever Terra deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2. And when you do, you get to return target creature card with power 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, which is actually really good. That means when you do, you get to return target creature with power 3 or less from your graveyard to the field. It says as long as she deals, so she does everything you will want to ask for if you were trying to do a self-mill strategy that is in black, red, and white that is power 3 or less. So anything that's power 3 or less. So this deck is going to be low to the ground with small creatures that you can just keep bringing back, that has versatility and good synergy with other amazing good 2-drop cards. Like there's one card called Mentor of the Meek that is in white that says whenever a creature with power 2 or less enters, you pay 1, you get to draw a card. So you have those effects. And then at the beginning of combat, this card is milling you cards, and then when she deals combat damage to a player, that's the only other downside is you have to get damage through, so you will have to give her trample or some type of combat evasion like flying or menace or anything, or haste if you can get her out with turn 1. Not turn 1, you ain't getting out on turn 1. So turn 3 or turn 2, it's turn 2 or turn 3 basically. If you have mana set up, if you have mana rocks and stuff like that for commander, you can deal combat damage to a player and start getting the train or the ball rolling with Terra. So I haven't really played much of Final Fantasy VI, but I do know a lot of the story where Kefka, I can't wait to see what his card is for the Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering stuff, because Kefka was a very, very crazy, very, very crazy protagonist, not protagonist, but evil antagonist for the game and stuff. So, there's going to be a lot of stuff. So I can't wait to see the Final Fantasy VI side of cards. They're going to be actually really fun and everything else. So now we're going to look at the other card, Celeste Rune Knight. This is the other second commander that will be coming in the precon for the Final Fantasy VI precon. So there's 4 commander decks. They're all going to be based off of their games. So this one's based off of 14. This one is based off of Final Fantasy VI. So all the decks will be tailored to their specific games and those games' world. So we're going to look at Celeste. She's exactly 4 mana. She's black, white, red, and 1. She is a 4/4. She's a human wizard knight. When Celeste enters, you can discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards plus 1. So that's kind of busted. That's busted. So if you have 7 cards in hand, you can discard your entire hand and draw an extra one. So you draw 8 cards. That's pretty busted. There's some shenanigans you could probably do with that. You can probably got some infinite combos you can probably do with Celeste pretty quick. Her second ability is when one or more other creatures you control enter. If one or more of them entered from your graveyard or cast from your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. That is pretty cool. But the funny thing is, she's in white, so that means you have blink spells in white, and you can keep blinking this commander to refresh your hand over and over and over and over. That first ability is so darn strong. Oh, I'm like, that is so strong. This ability is busted, man. It enters, discard any number of cards, and then draw that many +1. That is very, very, very powerful. The second ability, it's a 1 or more effect. So it's not just, if you have 3 creatures enter, it's only going to trigger once. So you have to get it out so you can trigger 1 card at a time to get it triggered multiple times. And all you're doing is putting a +1/+1 counter on each creature control. There's another creature in the Final Fantasy set that kind of already does that. It's not even a creature, it's an enchantment, but you have to sack an artifact, and that is the side quest that does it. So the side quest will fit in Celeste Rune Knight if you're trying to build around her. Now, if I had to pick between the two, which one I would pick, I would probably pick Celeste. But if I want to pick the other one, I probably will still pick Celeste for building command around. But they will both go into the deck anyways. So let's go to Final Fantasy VII. This commander deck is going to be centered around all Final Fantasy VII. It's going to be Cloud X Soldier. They made him white, red, and green with 2 mana. Human Soldier Mercenary. He's a 4/4. He will have haste. When Cloud enters, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to it. And then whenever Cloud attacks, you draw a card for each attacking creature you control. Then if Cloud has power 7 or greater, you create 2 treasure tokens. This card seems very fun with Cloud because now they're actually doing all his abilities with all his swords and all that other stuff that you can able to do with Cloud. So when he enters, you can attach a one target equipment for free. There is one equipment that gives out plus 10, or if you go with some of the other equipments from like there's Bone Sabers that gives out +4. That is from Warhammer 40k. If you go with that equipment, it gives out another +4. So he's going to have overpower 7. And then when it attacks, you draw a card for each attacking creature you control. For equipped attacking creatures. So you can go with everything that you need to do is just basically have a bunch of creatures, but they got to have equipment on. But since he's in white, there's another card that actually works really well that allows you to just dump all your equipment on stuff. There's so much cool things you can do if you're trying to do, but this feels like this is a go-wide equipment strategy and not just a single person equipment strategy. So like build a party. You build a party of 7 characters and then you go. So you have Tifa, you have Cloud, you have Aerith, you have Sid, you have Barrett, and then you have Yuffie, you have Vincent, and then you have Red 13. So you have all 8 guys, and then you have them all equipped, and then you start swinging. That'd be really fun to do. That is for Final Fantasy VII. But now, no, not him, no, where is it? Man, something happened. So I have 1 card left. I did not see it on here, so I have to add it in. And this will be the last card. I am so sorry. Let's do this. Add file. The last card is Tidus. Tidus, whatever you want to call him. Yuna's Guardian from Final Fantasy X. He has blue, green, and white. He is Bant. He is a legendary creature, human warrior, 3/3. He has 2 abilities. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may move a counter from target creature you control onto a second target creature you control. It says a counter, so that basically means any counter of anything that's in all of Magic. So you can move +1/+1 counters. You can remove the ability counters that they did from like Korea, or you can move the weird charge counters or stuff. It's whatever counters you want. You can just move them onto other target creatures. But that's it. Just creatures only. I don't know why just creature only. And then he has Cheer. When one or more creatures you control with counters on them deal combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and proliferate. Do this only once each turn. So basically, he's just a counters guy that's in Bant that messes with counters. I thought they were going to go with something with Blitzball, because that's what he's about. He's a Blitzball. He's a Blitzball player. Blitzball! Like, there's something wrong with this card. I like the card. I would probably build around it. There's going to be, I hope they do him justice and make his stuff around Blitzball and around his father and everything else. Because Final Fantasy X is one of my favorite games, and I'm like, they missed the ball on this one. I'm like, Cheer. That is one of his side abilities that he gets in the game from the Spear Grid at the very beginning. Because he starts with Cheer, but you have to unlock it. And I'm like, they could have gone with something else. He does stuff with Blitzball because he works well with Waka. And man, they could have put Partner or something. Oh, that would have been so cool or whatever. But they did not. They didn't even go with any of the mechanics for Final Fantasy X. Like, the abilities to switch in and out all your characters at once. It's a travesty. I know, but I do like this card. I recommend anyone who wants to get the Final Fantasy. If you watch this entire video, I would say thank you for watching with me. I did have some screw-ups because it's my first time doing this. I thought I put all the cards in it, but I'm sorry. But I will thank you guys for checking out my today's video of all of the Final Fantasy cards that have been revealed so far. I will probably do the rest of the video when all the other cards get revealed, just for fun. So thank you guys for checking out today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.